Good afternoon, good morning. It's Friday and the sun is pretty much shining, and it's good to be back for my Friday chats. And I'm happy to say I have Angela Fishman with me today, our PT that ran the Pelvic Floor Challenge. And I am so excited to hear, was it a success?
Yes, thank you so much for having me back, Betsy. Yes, it was a total success. It was more fun than I expected. It was as effective as I hoped, which was great. It was received really well. Yeah, it was really exciting. We had a great time, which I think the community aspect of all of us being a group going through the challenge was even more fun and more beneficial than I had expected. So it was a nice
That's great. Now, did you do it virtually? Why don't you walk us through?
Sure. Right. So what the fitness challenge was for, there's kind of two main types of leakage that women have. One is with coughing or sneezing, which is called stress incontinence. So coughing, sneezing, lifting, exercising. So that's stress incontinence, and that's what this fitness challenge was targeting. There's also the type of leakage or bladder discomfort that's called overactive bladder or urge incontinence. So it comes with frequency, urgency, getting up at night. So that is for a different course.
Oh, that's a different course.
Yep. That's one that I'm starting in July. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say today, maybe I shouldn't say this publicly, but anyway, I tripped and fell and had a little leakage. So is that the exercise?
So that would go into like stress incontinence. You can think of like stress incontinence as kind of a physics problem. There's too much pressure coming down from whatever the reason. Coughing, sneezing, tripping, anything that causes pressure coming down, and there's not enough oomph from below to counteract that. Yes.
Okay.
So this fitness challenge called 6 Weeks to Strong that we started in February was really targeted towards stress incontinence. Okay. And the nice kind of surprise, one of the nice surprises was that people that came to the class that had stress incontinence also had some urgency issues, and some of that got better too. So that was like a lovely benefit to see that I wasn't necessarily expecting. So the class met every week. We did Monday nights at 5, just because it was a time that everyone that signed up could do. And we did about a half hour to 45-minute live Zoom class. And in that time, we all kind of got to know each other really well. And people seemed to get really more and more comfortable talking about these very personal issues, which I love because you feel so isolated when you're suffering with something like this. And it really seemed like a nice platform where people felt comfortable to get all their questions answered, because if one person has the question, you know, others do as well. So I think that part was really helpful too. And then each week we just kept kind of building up our exercises, and we go over some what are called healthy bladder habits to try and kind of make sure that how we're treating our bladder is correct too. And we measured at the beginning and we measured at the end, and everybody got some improvement. And the average improvement using an actual validated questionnaire was 57%. So it was quite effective. I mean, some people at 100%. I'm looking at the results now, 82%, 63%. We had a couple people that didn't really recognize any symptoms. They joined the class just to know more about their pelvic floor. And even they saw some improvement. They didn't realize some things were kind of not in the norm, but the questionnaire caught it. So yeah, so I'm very excited.
That's it. So do you do the questionnaire in the beginning and then at the end the same?
Yes. So we do it like right before we even start our first class, you fill it out. It just asks simple questions like, do you leak with coughing or sneezing? Do you have urgency on the way to the bathroom? And then you rank it by numbers. And then at the end, you get a total score. And it's something that's used in research, which is why I decided to use that. So we had some pretty good numbers to go by.
That is great. And then tell me, so did you start out and, you know, you give them one exercise, or do you do the exercises while you're in class, or how does that, is it?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so much of this is education too. So every week we have an exercise of the week and a bladder healthy habit of the week. Okay. And then we have time for questions. So it starts with one exercise, and that's the famous Kegels, because that really is kind of a foundation of all of this, but it's not the end all. And so there's so much misinformation out there about Kegels. So really the first lesson and the first week is just getting confident doing them, making sure that you know how to do them right, and getting into a routine of doing them. And then the next week we add one more exercise. And by the third week, you have 3 exercises. So, and then that's the max. You only have to do 3 exercises every day. And the exercises shift a little as the time goes on, but it's just 3 exercises a day for the 6 weeks. So,
and I'm assuming people should continue to do these exercises. How much time per day are you asking?
During the challenge, it's about 15 minutes a day, because you're doing the Kegels twice a day. Because so people are coming to the class with current leakage. There were a couple people that had no leakage, and they probably could have gotten away with once a day. But when you're actually trying to make a change in pelvic floor muscle strength, it can really help, because they tire out quickly, those muscles. So
yeah, I was going to say, it seems like
right
15 minutes of doing that is, I mean, it's not a long time to do 3 pieces of equipment, but it's a long time to be doing that. I mean, a minute.
Well, it's not 15 minutes, so I probably misled you. It's not 15 minutes of Kegels. The Kegels may only take 2 minutes, but the way I kind of tell people is you'll never have to do more than 15 minutes total of exercises.
Okay.
So as you get into the 3 exercises, you're going to add more time. That first week, it may have only taken anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, I would say, a day, because some people really had to focus on learning how to engage their pelvic floor muscles, because it's something they had never really done correctly before, or maybe not at all.
I would think that that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, yeah.
Everyone seemed to be confident by the end of the first week. I think it's really we go over the anatomy, and we go over how specifically to do it and what to watch if you're using wrong muscles. Because when you have a weak set of muscles, which often the pelvic floor is weak, other muscles tend to come in and overpower it. Right. So you might have your gluteal or buttock muscles coming in, or your thigh muscles, or your tummy muscles. And so we go over what positions do you use, and how do you make sure that those muscles quiet down so that you can really focus on the inner muscles. Because that really is the foundation. Once you can engage those, you can build everything else on top of that.
Okay. But it's not easy. I mean, it's not like, I'm sure it takes concentration and to be able to figure out how to do it.
Yes. So we start like in a lying down position, sometimes on your back, sometimes on their side, depending on how it feels. So yeah, I definitely tell people, don't be like playing Candy Crush on your phone or having your pets in with you. You really want to focus, because then once you have it, you've got it. And then you can just keep building on it. Mm-hmm.
So now tell me, the new challenge is going to be for like urgency.
Urgency, right. And so urgency, so one thing I kind of struggled with is you do need some pelvic floor strengthening with it. But the main strategies that you learn for urgency and frequency and urge incontinence is they're not that hard to learn. They're just very specific, and you need to practice them. So what I ended up doing was making a shorter challenge for that. It's about a month long. I'm going to see how that goes. Usually you need about 6 weeks to really strengthen muscles. So if I see that after those 4 weeks, we didn't get enough time in to get those pelvic floor muscles stronger, we may have to extend it. But 6 weeks gets kind of long for people to have to make time in their schedule. So I'm trying to fine tune that. So we'll see how this first class goes, but I can teach all of those strategies that you use for urgency and frequency within that, no problem. And then in the meantime, they're doing some Kegels to try and help strengthen the pelvic floor.
It sounds great. It'll be interesting to see after you do that, the differences that you see in the 2 groups. And
yes. Definitely. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to measure before and after with the same questionnaire, so that I'll have some really good data to try and fine tune. Because I'm hoping, over time, I can keep making these even more streamlined and easier and as short as possible. They can't be too short, because if you really want to transform your pelvic health, you got to put the time into.
Absolutely. You got to anything. You can't, you have to invest the time and the energy. And then I'm just curious, are the participants, did they say they would continue to reach out to each other, or is there any?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that, but I think, so I just started a private Facebook group because we were trying to do a community within the class, but it was kind of limited. It doesn't have it's not as functional as a Facebook group is.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think it will be helpful because then, because a lot of people are on Facebook and they can pop into the group, see what the current class is doing, maybe even give advice to the current people. And we're trying to do some kind of like a little reunion just to check in and make sure everyone's on target. Because I
Right.
think you started asking me, what do you do after the class, like for maintenance? And it really depended. If someone was dry by the end of the class, they could easily go to what I call like a maintenance schedule. And if they were still leaking a little bit, but they were better, then they do a different schedule. If they really weren't better, which in our class that didn't happen, but if there was someone that wasn't improved at all, then I was really encouraging them to contact me so we can figure out, okay, there must be a different barrier going on with you. And who do we see? Who do we kind of aim you to so that you can get help?
That sounds great. I think the Facebook group is really good because then as you give these classes, people can join in and, if they need some help, they can pop in there. If they want to give encouragement, they can pop in there. It's a great idea. Or if somebody just finds it and wants to know more about a class, they can find it.
Exactly. So that's my hope. It literally just started this week. So we'll
good
see.
for you. Good for you. And why don't you tell us just once more, in case anybody's listening, if they have, how they can get in touch with you, why you would call a person like you.
Yeah, so I'm a pelvic health physical therapist. So I have experience with pretty much all pelvic health dysfunctions, but because now I treat fully via telehealth, so just through the computer, I tend to not see people that have a lot of the pelvic pain issues. A lot of times with pelvic pain, you need in-person manual therapy. So if someone contacts me like that, I usually try and help pair up with someone who's local that can treat them. But for pretty much anything else, any postpartum care, bladder care, there are some things with pain that I can do where there's just an educational component. They can contact me for physical therapy, and I'm licensed in Illinois, Colorado, California, and Florida. So
Nice.
for physical therapy, for like traditional pelvic health physical therapy, you have to be in one of those states when I treat you. But for the classes, you do not. The classes are not considered formal therapy. It's more of an informational, educational type thing. So you can be in any of the states in the United States to take that. So to contact me, I'm sorry, that's what you asked me. My website is mypelvictherapy.com. So my practice is called My Pelvic Therapy. And you can get to the courses that way as well as to myself for therapy.
That's great. Wonderful. Well, thank you for catching us up, Angela, and letting us know how it goes. And may have to sign up for the next go around.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for letting me loop back around.
I love it. Thank you so much, and get out and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.
Yes, you too. Thanks,
All
Betsy.
right.
Great
Have a
talking to
great
you
weekend.
again.
Bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.